Hey, everybody. I think you all know how this goes because I'm in front of you and there's a handsome man sitting beside me, at least in cyberspace. And for those of you who have been joining the Librarian Speaks, you know that handsome fellow because you know that I adore him. And he is an even bigger history geek than I am. And that's saying a lot. His name is Scott Erickson, and shoved into that magnificent brain is all of the information I am trying to get. And Scott has a tendency to spoil me and send me packages. And yesterday, the postal, actually, this was UPS, delivered 2 boxes and 2 boxes the day before. Now, the one we are about to open together weighs more than Scott does. So I am going to run and round because I'm old and I can do that. And I get the pleasure of not only opening this and showing you all, I get someone who is going to tell me stories about the content. So, you ready? Now, I will say that all 4 of these boxes were properly marked, which is actually very impressive considering how I usually get boxes. Because did I mention geek? I wasn't sure if I had said he's a geek. Uh, and a history geek at that. Some of the projects, actually, no, let me do this a little differently. Scott is on Facebook. I was going to tell you about some of his projects, but why don't you look him up and ask? Right now, we are opening, maybe, there, last little snip. We're opening marvelous boxes of stuff and information and one and wonders. And I get a guided tour of the country.
That would be a map of the Fetish Flea Market, either Fetish Flea Market number 50 or 52. I believe these were signs to be handed to be posted around so that people would know exactly where things were. But they were extras and left over. But that's what a flea looked like.
Wow, this looks like the original. So I'm just going to turn this up this way.
Yeah.
Talk about, let me move in just a little. Talk about detail. But
Yep.
this also gives a whole new meaning to Toyland, Toyland.
All types of vendors, all of the classrooms where they were, so that people would know if they were looking for a particular vendor, where they were located.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
This is the kind of place where you leave your credit card
No, you
locked
don't. You take
away.
your credit card with you.
You leave the credit card locked away.
No, you take your credit card with you because these people had come from all over and they needed your money in order to continue be able to make a living so that they can continue to make more things so that you could have
Oh,
more
I agree. However, first day, leave the card because it's like wandering up and down a magnificent fair. You get waylaid at booth like 3 and you blow all your cash and you never get to booth 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So we may just have different shopping style. First day out, I lock my wallet away from even me because most of you already know every book dealer in the known world already has my credit card number. See, and then second day, after you've made an absolute fool of yourself, marking on the map all of the places you want to go back to and spend your first child's trust fund. Then you go get the 3 credit cards you're going to max out and go on a shopping spree. Just looking at this is causing my credit card to ache. And this is so long ago, I shouldn't worry about it.
Yep. The event is no longer running. To open up that manila envelope right there. Open up the manila envelope and
Got waylaid.
Yeah.
Mine.
Yep. So you actually have a binding on this that is different than others, but that is
Removing all things gently. Very gently. Hold on. Hold on, everybody. You'll get to see it. What I have in my hands is a whole lot of digitized history. Not only am I looking forward to getting these programs and history up on the website, I'm looking forward to loading these discs into a couple of the computers that travel with us so that you can just access them. We have the history of the AMCC. Well, wait a minute, why am I doing this? I've got the historian right here.
Yep, it's
Where were we?
AMCC history. The next one is Fetish Fair Flea Market program books and the Scarlet Leather, which was Neela's excuse me, newsletter. And then these are Leather Leadership Conference program books that are digitized. Not all of them are there, but it's a good chunk of them. I would probably say there's a good 70% of them that are there.
Many of you have heard me talk before about the importance of the program and the newsletter. Remember, most programs are printed in very, very small press runs, and more often than not, we don't save them. But there is so much that can be found in a program book. Yes, it is the history of the event that you are part of. It tells its program, its presenters, the groups, merchants that support us. All of that information is in a program book. If it's an event that is run continually, you also have the history of the event in the programs. But because of the information it contains, it can validate a presenter. And in a weird way, it's also kind of a safety valve. If the dominant or slave of your dream says, well, I've been here, I've been there, I have presented here, I have presented there, being able to access the programs for those events will tell you if they're telling the truth or if they're not. And since most times the program book can't be found, far too often there's no way to validate that story. Scott?
Well, actually, in one of the Fetish Fair Flea Market program books, it actually lists me as doing an advanced bondage class. I believe it was in one of the ones back from 2004. I don't do advanced bondage, and I didn't teach that class because the person that was creating the program never asked me.
Oops.
So that's not always the right. Sometimes people are listed that didn't do the class. I was at the event. They were like, oh, I can't wait to see your advanced bondage class. I'm like, I'm not doing an advanced bondage class. So
now, what is the worst part of that? 20 years from now, most people won't know. And those of you who access these will go, wait a minute, Scott, can you tell me about, and he'll laugh and you'll be puzzled. And then you will have the basis for a great story. the advantage, the importance of the program.
Good. The next, what you have in front of you is the history of the Atlantic Motorcycle Coordinating Council,
My God, yes.
also known as AMCC.
Stop drooling and show what's in my hand.
Yeah. So
I am so
AMCC started on April 5th, 1969 in DC. And this is of all of the history going back to 1969. It is also of all 60 clubs who have been part of AMCC.
Look at this list. That is history right there.
Some of the histories are a little bit more robust than others. Some of them I wasn't quite able to find a lot of.
This is like taking a walk down memory lane for me. Scott, how long did it take you to put this together?
I think I was asked late last spring and I sent it to Stephen, this was for the 200th meeting that AMCC had, which was on February 25th of this past year. I sent it to him 2 weeks beforehand. So it took that long. I actually also went to the Leather Archive and Museum to research some of this because some of it there were certain ones that I had absolutely no idea what to do with. I was at a complete and total loss, and I wanted to make sure that each and every single club had something to say for them. I didn't want it to be, have blanks. So what you're looking at right there is bits and pieces of things from the meeting minutes that you now have a copy of. You have a copy of all 200 meeting minutes. We're only missing 3 in the 54 years.
God. Remember what I said about leather history, geek?
The next thing that you're going to go into is that there are all of the people who have served as an officer of AMCC. All of them are listed, and the club that they were on. You also have a complete listing of each and every single meeting, the date that it took place, and who hosted it.
Stars, Scott.
One of the ones that I loved in the bits and pieces from the meeting minutes that is there was a man from MC Falcone out of Montreal. He was the secretary and he wanted to confirm the contact list from everybody in the room. And he said, I want everybody to confirm with me after the meeting. And if you do not confirm with me, you will be receiving an obscene phone call from me in French. And I just thought, talk about threatening somebody with a good time.
I was about to say, no, I don't
purposely,
even...
I wouldn't confirm because I would want the call, wouldn't you?
But by the way, here's my phone number.
I don't speak French, but hot damn, I want an obscene phone call in French, don't you?
I can honestly say I actually got one.
Lucky you.
More years ago now than I can remember. International Mr. Drummer, a man named Hervé Bernard, was from Paris. A baritone, and spoke perfect English with this lilting French accent. And after drooling all over him at Drummer, which he thought was just the funniest thing that ever happened to him because it never dawned on him that 1, he's handsome, 2, he's French, and 3, the voice could melt stone, that women would be interested. And half of the women there were following him around going, would you just say hello? Can you read a phone book? Say something. And
take me to dinner and order and order my meal.
Curse me out.
Yeah, really.
So he made a bet with me that he would read something very special for me if I would learn the Marseillaise, which is the French national anthem. and sing it at his step down. I kept my half of the bargain. So did he. And after reading this piece, he delightfully cursed me out, which I thought was just wonderful because it sounded so sexy.
Didn't it? It's 142 pages long.
It's amazing, Scott. Oh, good Lord. Remember, I will not drool over this. And by the way, even the back is pretty. Now, that could be an interesting to meditate on.
Yeah. It's actually from an old cover from Wheels magazine.
Okay.
Uh,
We've got one or
Put
two
out by
in the
Cycle
library.
MC. I lifted it from there to put it on the back. I tried to incorporate things from many different clubs as far as the artwork.
You know what it's like Christmas morning?
Okay, so that Fetish Fair Flea Market program book, that's one of them.
uh, Guide to getting around, enjoying yourself, finding your classes, and spending a buttload of money.
Yep, that was a summer flea. Summer fleas were more of well, more like a pamphlet than they were a book because it was smaller. And I believe, yep, that's another one that was a summer flea as well.
All of these beautiful things. Oh my stars. Robbie, Scott has sent you something special.
Yes.
So that's going to go right here so that when you come over this weekend, I can give you whatever is there and then you can tell me what's in it.
I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
Beer annexes. When you come home, look what you get. And based on
It's
I can say that
there.
you're getting what I got.
There are enough copies in there for each annex of the Carter Johnson Library.
Scott, this cost you a fortune. And thank you.
The only way people are going to know is by reading and having the history. It doesn't help anybody if no one knows it. You need to know where people's feet have been.
Yeah.
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 So keep digging. There's
Colorado, this one's yours. Atlanta, yep, you're in there. Boston, we got yours. Northwest, I got it. We can keep going down this list, but
keep pulling out because there's something below that as well.
the most important thing is Costa Rica. We got you covered.
And more.
It's Christmas morning.
And more. And more.
Atlanta, I think this one's yours. Stay.
They all have a copy of the AMCC history, all of the AMCC meeting minutes in electronic form. They also have the program books from the Flea and the Scarlet Leather. They also have the LLC program books in electronic form. All of the hard copy of the AMCC history that Mama was just flipping through. That's 142 pages. It's also in electronic form as well. But I do ask that people do not share it on social media as legal names are still listed in there. So
May they show the cover though?
Oh yeah.
Now,
It's just the legal names that we don't want. Yeah.
Because this is just a little, extra boost for the Texas Annex and maybe just a little gauntlet to the Texas Conference of Clubs. You know, Grandma Vi is waiting.
And if they need to know how to do it, call me.
Minutes. Oh my God, yes.
So those are spare. So when we get meeting minutes, sometimes there's spare ones because sometimes there's duplicates. And I was told not to throw things out and that you were the trash can. So
That would be me.
yep. Those are pamphlets from the New England Leather Alliance.
At some point in time, when you all are rummaging through leather history and looking at old videos, a movie was made by Hardy Haberman and Mark Fraser called Out of the Darkness. And its intent was to teach police, paramedics, the differences between SM and
And you,
abuse.
yeah. That was why why this was also created as well, to do the same thing. We just didn't find a lot of reception from police, and that's more
Again, good pamphlets, things that
yeah. You said don't throw things out and to hand them off to you, so you got them.
hopefully at
Yeah.
some point in time, the information in here, while the pamphlet itself may be slightly dated, the information
The
is
information is still relevant.
the
The only
information.
thing is that the contact information for Neela is off.
So,
Is gone, right?
uh,
But the information is still relevant and valued.
so maybe it's time to get a few of these reprinted.
More Neela pamphlets.
Dear Littles,
Yep.
is the first thing that I pull out.
That was a special interest group that Neela had.
Why not?
Actually, they were for people's cars at the Flea. So
really?
we knew whose car was what, if it was staff or if it was one of the vendors or volunteer.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you would put it on your rear view mirror.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's Christmas. Cards. I will send at least 3 of these to California to Master David, who is doing the bar card project. We now have some that we can put in the files. That is Christmas morning. Tell me more.
So it started off as Wicked Pa. Wicked because when you're from Boston, everything is wicked. It's wicked. So that was a little bit of having a little homespun of Boston. But PA stands for Pups and Handlers originally. It now says Pets and Handlers.
Okay.
Shout out to Gaines. And he's been a driving force to keep that going. So shout out to Gaines.
And then on the other side, we have the Society.
Society. Yep. They had a play space in Hartford. I don't know if it's still there.
Okay.
Yeah. Pansexual group.
Love it. And
Yeah.
this is just the right size to fit into my new clamshells. I have more. Very, oh my. I will be looking at this real fast.
Do you recognize it?
Confederation of New York Clubs. You betcha.
A little bit. There's very little in there, but it at least gives some a little bit of a peruse of what it was, so that it's at least It's not the full history, but it's at least a little taste so that people can remember it.
It is most assuredly a walk down memory lane. I'm going to be looking at this one all weekend.
Yeah.
Stop getting romantic. Hold first. Hold. I'm going to hold and hold this, and then I'm going to read the back.
They that was given to me, the stuff that is included in there was given to me by Steve Newman, who was a member of Iron Guard, and so he gave me whatever files he had. So there was two of those that were made up. One went to the Leather Archive and one went to you. And the electronic file for them is in there as well. And they're also listed in the AMCC history, so everybody that is receiving one of those AMCC histories will also get the same thing. Their governing documents are in there. And the interesting thing is that their format for their governing documents is similar to what the Marauders used in order to start. And we got ours from Minotaurs of New Hampshire. And from what I was told, Minotaurs of New Hampshire also got theirs from Stars MC out of Albany. And so I also question, did Stars MC get theirs from Iron Guard? And which would make them our great grandfather.
And they were an amazing group of men.
Yeah.
Put that over there. And oh my. Okay. I'm drooling again. Come here, you. Gently. Come here.
Something tells me you reached the bottom of the box.
Come to mommy.
That
Yeah.
is all
Oh, yeah.
of the meeting minutes of the Atlantic Motorcycle Coordinating Council in print. If you open it up, you will see that it has the governing documents, and it also has another governing document, the current governing documents, but it also has ones that go all the way back to 94. But you also, after that, first meeting minute that you run into is actually from April 5th, 1969. And it lists who was there, who the founding members of AMCC were.
This is awesome. This is just fucking awesome. Ooh. I slipped.
The wonderful thing about those meeting minutes, if someone is looking to do research and you're looking to know where they went, where a particular club went, what they did, where they had their events, many times it was listed in there. So it's a very valuable document, a collection of documents, shall I say, that really do have a tremendous amount of information that is extremely rare. To have these sort of things survive all the way back to 54 years ago. The interesting thing, I was exactly 1 month old when the first meeting happened. I was born on March 5th, 1969. So, but one of the things that it also would give is when clubs started, when clubs ended.
Wow, I had never thought about that.
Because if you were a member of council, the council would say, okay, we have someone that's coming in who's we have a club that's looking to be part of council. And they would say they have been active for X number of years. So that gives you when they started. And if they ended up resigning from AMCC, very often they would say, the club's disbanding, etc. So very often there was never really a record from a club that, because a lot of times with clubs, They sometimes would go off into the ether. They wouldn't even turn around and say, yes, we're shutting down. They just kind of like pilfer off.
True.
Sometimes you can get, because there's several instances in there where people had said, I spoke to so-and-so who was part of the club, and they said that the club is disbanded.
Okay.
And that it disbanded on X date. So it gives a date a lot of times for a lot of these clubs that have ended. Not all of them are there. Some of them have ended, and if you read the history, it'll say, you know, disbanded, date unknown, because we just don't have the date, because they just didn't come forward and say, yes, we're closing down the club. They just kind of walk away and goes into the ether.
This is an insane amount of work.
And I think this is also part of the reason why it's currently under review to be part of the Smithsonian.
Now, why don't you repeat that a little louder so that
I
everybody
don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it.
You're not. You're putting it out into the ether, and I'm just adding energy. And so will everyone who eventually sees this.
Yeah.
What was that about the Smithsonian? I just want to make
It's currently under review, from what I understand, to be part of the LGBTQ plus archive.
They ain't getting rid of us. Scott,
It is a tremendous amount of information.
This is a crazy amount of work. Okay, don't do this while the camera is running. Geek out later.
I don't. But all of the annexes have an electronic copy of all of those meeting minutes. So that if anybody is looking if someone's looking to research history, they can use this invaluable collection of information, because it really is a very rare archive. If there was a club that was typically East Coast, or even as far as like Canada, you'll get some good information out of it, events and
Texas. Hint, hint. All of my rodeo.
there's also the Midwest Conference of Clubs too. They're still going.
Yeah, it would be even nicer if they
Yeah.
were going to hand me a package look like this, talking about the Renegades and all of those wonderful clubs down in Texas. Texas, this is a hint. Grandmom's waiting. Scott, you're as crazy as a loon, and I love your brand of insanity.
And to think that's not the only things that I sent you either, that we're going to open on a later date.
So, as the handsome young man said, there is more to come and other unboxings with Grandmom and Scott. But for now, you know how we sign off. And if you really want to see all of this, you're going to have to
See
come
you in
and
the
see
library.
what he said.